All right, it looks like it. Great. All right. Thank you. All right, I think there's an extra agenda up there. There's a couple agendas up there. Good evening, everybody. My name is Shane Rhodes. I'm the City of Eugene staff representative tonight, filling in for Willow. Before the chairs convene the meeting, I have a few reminders and introductory words. Also, first off, I'd like to welcome all the new ATC members who will be officially joining us in January, but are here with us tonight. So I'd like to begin by acknowledging that tonight's meeting is being held on the Kalapuya Ilihi, the traditional indigenous homeland of the Kalapuya people, whom continue to make contributions in their communities here and across the land we now refer to as Oregon. The purpose of the Active Transportation Committee is to advise the City of Eugene staff and community organizations and partners on the implementation of Eugene's pedestrian and bicycle strategic plan, to represent community and constituent interests in transportation planning decisions, and to provide feedback to staff on projects relating to walking and bicycling. Eugene City staff will consider recommendations from the ATC, along with input from other members of the public during decision-making processes. Please keep in mind that this meeting is being both recorded and live streamed to YouTube, meaning that it can be viewed on the City of Eugene Transportation Planning YouTube channel, both right now and in the future. All verbal and written commentary will be held in the public record. Today's meeting will begin with a 15-minute public comment period. The public comment period is an opportunity for individuals to speak to the Active Transportation Committee on transportation-related issues. Each person will have 3 minutes to speak. When it's your time to speak, please give your name, city of residence, and for Eugene residents, your ward or neighborhood. We'll begin with those joining us online. If you'd like to speak, please use the raise the hand feature within Zoom now. I'll call on you when it's your turn, and we'll unmute your microphone at that time. See if there's anyone online. It looks like it's just ATC. Oh, I'm sorry, I do have one attendee. And I don't see a raised hand. So I think we're good. So we'll go to public comment from those here in person. And it looks like we have 3 people ready to speak. And we'll start with Connie.
Hi, I'm Connie Gardner from Amazon Neighborhood. And you know, some of the things I've said in the past, I'm going to say again today, because over the last several weeks, there's been so many pedestrians killed and bicyclists in Oregon. It's just been horrible. And I heard a program earlier today that it's up 40% pedestrian fatalities. I mean, it's pretty creepy. And it's just, you know, the reason we're all here to try and make it safer for everybody. Think about this every day. Turn on the TV or the radio, and there it is. So I think we can think about our fellow citizens that have been impacted. And just a side note from personal experience that I've discussed before, and I know that planning can't do much about it, where 2-lane, 4-lane, to come dead end into something where they must turn. And once again, broad daylight, light said walk with my bike across, and they pulled straight across and into me. So, yeah, I don't know what we can do about the horror of that, but it just keeps repeating, and then we'll have to say terrible things about someone. Bye. Thank you, Connie.
Great, thanks, Connie. And then Noah.
Hi, I'm Noah Brunel. I live in downtown Eugene, Oregon. I would like to talk about something that's more lighthearted, I guess. I know that all the time people come in and talk and say, can we figure out a way that I don't get killed? I want something much simpler, which is that on our recreational trails that double as bicycle paths, I feel like we need much better wayfinding. I know it sounds kind of trivial, it's just sort of an annoyance for me, but those bicycle paths for now, until we get better infrastructure, are pretty much our highways. And if part of our goal is to get more people taking some trips by bicycle, it needs to be a lot more inviting to be able to navigate. every time I go to someplace I have not been before, and I'm using those trails, I end up budgeting about twice what a maps application tells me to get there, and then the amount the application tells me to get back, because I'm going to be stopping every time there's a fork to pull out, unlock my phone. If it's raining, put on my glasses because I don't know it's raining. And look at instructions that say turn right onto Amazon Creek, keep right onto Amazon Creek, turn right onto Amazon Creek. Those are consecutive instructions. It's even more bizarre when you're on the Ruth Basket.
Yeah.
Turn left onto Ruth Basket, turn right onto Ruth Basket. If you were driving, you would not accept every street being called Main Street. So yeah, if there's someone who doesn't bike often and they think, I could go to the grocery store on my bike today, I'm only getting milk. And that's their experience. They're kind of being told, don't do that. This isn't for you. These are just for trails. There is a similar thing, which is getting onto those trails. If I am biking parallel to the Fern Ridge Trail, my general heuristic for finding an entrance is to look for a sign that says dead end, because there's nothing to tell bicyclists. This is where you go. I know that the Parks Department has apparently said that they don't want to do a lot of that signage because they'd have to maintain it. And I would suggest one possibility is that since those trails are not driven on by automobiles for the most part, the paint is a lot more durable than it is on the street, so that might be a cheap solution. Yeah, I don't know how this gets implemented, but I won't get into the feelings that it ought to.
Well, thank you, Noah, and I'll just say that we actually had an intern working on a project that was a part of our path etiquette campaign that is a striping and signage plan that included path etiquette signage, but also included wayfinding signage. And so we have a prioritized list of where we want to put wayfinding signage and striping on the path. And part of that report also discusses the potential of using paint instead of signs for all of those locations. We're just trying to finalize where that funding is coming from. It won't be coming from parks or maintenance, but from our team. And so we're working with parks and maintenance to see how much of it we can get done. I appreciate the comments. I think that it brought up another thing too, which was the naming convention on maps, which is something that I haven't really thought about that much, but I think is something that we could look into both on OpenStreetMap and Google Maps, and sort of how that, what our naming convention on paths are for wayfinding. Something to think about.
So is that project dedicated to more of the paths around the river, or is it citywide, or?
It's citywide, it's not just a riverbank path. We prioritize based on equity, and we have a couple different measures that we did, but we have a prioritized list, and it's Fern Ridge Path, Amazon Path, and Ruth Basket Path.
Yeah,
And I-5 path. I mean, we looked at all the paths and prioritized them. It does tend to be somewhat more central because part of the matrix was also on how much they're used. So
that might be good to get a report to ATC about that.
yeah, I thought we had come and presented, but maybe not the full report.
There was some.
I'll send out the latest.
Okay.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to know where you are, because if you're looking for a particular street, like you're riding on Ruth Basket and you're looking, you want X Street, you really don't know where it is. There's no way to know from the bike path. You want to one nice arrow that says, this street, this street, this street.
Yeah, it does feel like it's for insiders, the paths, that's a good idea too.
And I like the point about accessing the paths, because there are
same thing.
definitely some hidden roads you can take to get to the Fern Ridge path. So it would be good to let people know how to get there.
Yeah, that was a good one too. The dead end except bicycles, because we have those except bicycles or except biking heads on some of our diverter streets, but I don't think we put them on dead end streets, or no outlet. except for bikes and peds. And I think that's another, there's another funding piece, but it's,
For the purpose of Google Maps, could we call the branch that goes to Monroe Street just Monroe Street?
no.
Would that be possible?
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's something that we have to put in the request. It's easy to do on OpenStreetMap, but others, not always so easy. Putting those requests. And our GIS team will do things like that, putting those requests. So that's something I can add to that report. That is okay. Okay, that's time on that one. Alan?
All right, I don't know. I guess
Public
I want to
comment.
stay. Public comment.
At the table.
My name's Alan Hancock. I live in Ward 2, I think it is. And for those of you who are not Y members, you have an opportunity in the next couple of weeks to see the new Y, to get a tour. I was fortunate to see the new Y, get a tour last week. It's phenomenal. It's just really amazing. It's something that our community can be really, really proud of. And the new Y is named after George Stathos. It's not
Don Stathos.
I'm sorry, Don Stathos. Don Stathos. And I did not know who Don Stathos was, but Don Stathos is the name of the campus, big sign, Don Stathos Campus. It was inspired by a significant anonymous donor who was excited to celebrate an Oregon legend, and the late representative embodied the values that was deeply held by the Y: innovation, sustainability, vision, and compassion to meet the health and social needs of the community. Despite significant resistance and political sacrifice, Stathos held to his authentic, principled approach to enact legislation that would endure for generations, and that is the Oregon Bike Bill, first in the nation, 1971, which supports active transportation infrastructure. So that's something to really be proud of, that the new Y is named after someone who helped get the bike bill passed. That's great. And getting to the new Y on a bicycle is not safe. Yeah, from some directions. Yeah. From the south along the path, it's pretty safe. And along 24th, there are bike racks. I'm really hopeful that the entrance that I lobbied hard for years ago will be open, that from the corner of 24th and Hilliard. But the primary entrance is between 24th and 25th, and there are a lot of bike racks at the primary entrance. So, question for Shane, are there any plans for improving the bicycle facility between 24th and 25th on Hilliard Street, so that people who are coming either from 24th or coming from Alder can get to the Y safely and can uphold Don Stathos' legacy?
I don't think that there are any current plans for Hilliard changes. I haven't heard of any changes. I know that in the original designs that I saw for the Y, there was a path along Hilliard. And I think that was taken out because they wanted to get the building closer to Hilliard. And so I'm not sure what what the plan is for improvements. I know that I'd have to see what the new flow is, because I think that, I was just talking to someone about this today about, they were talking about turning left from 24th onto Hilliard to get there. I'm not sure if just continuing on 24th and coming in through the driveway that's further down, because there's a driveway on 24th as well as a driveway on Hilliard, right? And 24th has bike lanes on it, but Hilliard doesn't.
It's a roundabout way if you're coming from the east.
And then you still have to make a left turn across.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, you have to make a left turn
across.
across 24th, but not at a busy intersection. I think we're more likely to make a left turn where they only have to deal with one oncoming lane rather than dealing with the whole signalized intersection. But part of it is how they built their building and where they put their entrance, and that was some of the early design decisions.
Yeah.
That makes it unfortunate, and there's like, okay, city, now fix this.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I worked at I don't think anyone's on the ATC back whenever it was 6 years ago, but there was not going to be any entrance from the corner of 24th and Hilliard, and the only entrance was going to be on the side. So anyway, I worked hard to get that. So we do at least have a pedestrian exit. Whether we can enter there, I'm not sure.
Yeah. But I agree, my hope is that we can make some improvements to make that safer, because it is, I think Hilliard has some real concerns for crossing and access. I think there are some access issues for that new
Yeah.
site. It is a really exciting site. Their other site also was not very bike friendly. And we made improvements for that crossing there between South and the Y, and that made it a little better. But it was still not a great way to access it. Now that there is, they've been really great partnering with Peace Health Rides, project of the city of Eugene as well, and that they're offering free Peace Health Rides membership for people who sign up in this first month. That's exciting. There's going to be a bike share station there that's going to be co-branded, our first co-branded bike share station. They're doing a lot of great things with it.
Maybe a footnote on Alan's comment. This Saturday from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Starting at 10 a.m. there's the ribbon cutting ceremony, and then it's open to the public until 3 p.m. to walk through and see the site. So any who are interested in following up and walking around the building to see active transportation.
Yeah, and walk a bike there and see how it feels and give you feedback.
We need to call time and get going, but we might want to revisit that for our future ATC agenda item, Hilliard. Hilliard in general is pretty bad. Okay, the next thing is approve the November 2023 meeting summary notes. Any changes to those notes before we vote to approve those? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. A second.
Are those in favor? Okay, looks like it's unanimous. Approved. And before we go on to the next one, I think we should go around and just quickly, we've got our signs, we don't have to say our names, but the people who are new to the table, we could just start hearing their names so that we start knowing who they are.
My name is Peter Simmons. I'm one of the members.
Peter?
Josh Karaka.
I'm Lucy.
I'm Jerry.
Michelle?
Keith with BPAC.
Yeah, I'm Charlie Lowe.
I'm Brad Albee. Alan Hancock.
Sue Wong.
Julie Daniel.
Mary?
Andrew, Shane.
Right. Then we have Noah and Connie over there. Mr. Lot, Noah's here, so that's great. Okay, let's
And
go.
just for the newbies, we are planning a retreat in probably February. We'll get to interact with you and get to know you a lot better, so.
And then-
We don't know you right now, but we will.
And in January on the agenda, it'll be a little bit more of a formal introduction. We'll ask a little bit about you and. Okay. Number 4, e-scooter evaluation.
Great.
You starting us out there?
Yep, I guess I am. Let me see here. Oh, you know what I haven't done is share screen. So let me do that real fast. I'm gonna bring this over here. Let's see that.
We have members, Clarissa, Andrea, and Misty. Was
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Charlotte's not here?
Okay. There we go. Okay. E-scooter evaluation. Okay, so this is, I don't have a lot of slides. Let's see if I can move that a little bit.
May I just say that one of the reasons we're doing this is to get a report, but it's also so that the ATC can think about if we have any stands about e-scooters or anything that we want to weigh in as a group about e-scooters.
Yeah, and I'll say that we are at about the 7-month mark of our year-long pilot. By the end of March, we would need to have a new license in place if we are going to continue the program. So the current license expires at the end of March, and if we are going to continue the license for a year or 2 or more, that license has to be signed by the end of March. So we are in the process right now of determining if we are going to continue that pilot, and part of that is, we completed a survey that was sort of the 6-month check-in with the community, and now we are talking to leadership about what they want to see and we want to come to ATC and talk to you about what we've seen, what we're talking about, what's working, what's not, share that information with you and get your feedback as part of the community. So we have 30,000 unique user accounts that have been registered for Scooter so far. Over 220,000 trips have been taken, over 260,000 miles covered on those trips. So that's quite a lot.
Is that from the software?
Yes.
You know, you can tell from the software that it's 260.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of miles. And as we saw from the survey that I reported on last time, or in October when I came to ATC to present, you know, a lot of users were saying that the trips that they would have taken if they didn't use scooters, it was replacing walking trips, but it was also replacing car share and personal car trips, and a small amount of bike share and personal bike trips. But we're definitely seeing that car trips are being replaced as part of that. We think it's, apologize for the yellow. This is the stock color of Populous because Link official color is yellow. So they thought, well, that'd be a good one to put on this chart. But as you can see, rides were really high in the summer, June, with special events and school still in session, kind of dropped off in the heat of the summer and then picked back up once students were returning. I just did this up till October because it shows the time that the survey was, up to the point that we already took the survey. What we are seeing is a big drop happening now in November and December, as expected. We see that with our bike share numbers as well. Not as big of a drop as our bike share system sees, but certainly a drop. And we expect that to continue through March, where it'll pick back up again, if it continues. But just a couple to re-highlight the things from the survey that I reported in October. It's still really split of how people are passionate about scooters. They either love them or hate them or like them or just dislike them. Pretty evenly split down the middle. In the survey, about 30% of the survey takers actually have ridden scooters. So 70% are non-scooter riders, but we still saw the split. So that was interesting. And top 3 reasons why people ride e-scooters. It's fun, it's convenient, and it can be the fastest way to get where they need to go. They're using it for recreation, for fun, social or entertainment trips, shopping errands, or appointment trips. And as I mentioned, if e-scooters weren't available, how would you have gotten around? Walking, personal vehicle, car share, or other motor vehicle, and then personal bike, e-bike. And then the lowest sort of replacement trips were bike share trips, personal e-scooters, and assisted mobility devices. We did see some anecdotal written answers just on that mobility device thing and access. There are people who made a point of saying these scooters have really opened up what I can do mobility-wise, and allowed me to get to places where I couldn't because it was too far to walk and I don't have a assisted mobility device. And so we saw that anecdotally come through the survey, people wanting to express that. This is just a little bit more breakdown of those numbers. And then in that survey, we asked how can we encourage better scooter parking, because that's the big issue that we hear about from people that they're concerned about, people riding scooters on the sidewalk and then people parking improperly. And incentives for clearly signed or designated parking areas and disincentives were sort of the top 3 answers. And so now we are at the point of, we have done the survey, we've worked with our operator. Just as a refresher, Super Pedestrian is the for-profit company that owns the scooters and has a license to operate. Part of the operations agreement with them was that if you're going to operate in Eugene, you need to use our bike share operations nonprofit to do the on-the-ground operations. And so they work with Cascadian Mobility, who does all the on-the-ground operations. And so we have partnership meetings where we're talking with the University of Oregon, Super Pedestrian, Cascadian Mobility, and city staff to figure out what's working well and what needs to change. And we are deep in those conversations right now to try and figure out, if we were to continue, what were the things that Cascadian Mobility and the city of Eugene need from Super Pedestrian, and or what does Super Pedestrian need from us to continue to have a successful program. And as I said, parking is the big piece that we're seeing. And so what we're asking is, if we're going to continue this, Super Pedestrian has to do some things to improve the parking behavior. And we're actively doing some things by increasing the number of hubs. And so we're asking them to incentivize and disincentivize bike or scooter parking that relates to our bike share system. So currently, they get, for users who don't park properly, they get a warning, another warning, a $5 fine, a warning, and then suspension. And we're asking them to just align that with how we do bike parking, which is a warning and then a $15 fine and short-term suspension, and then $15 fine and permanent suspension. And to actually implement those and automate the process, we feel like there's not enough enforcement happening. And so we're asking them to increase that enforcement with this progressive user discipline schedule, and to make that those parking violations easier. It currently takes Cascadian Mobility more than a minute. I think it's a couple minutes per incident, and that can add up over time. And so they want to streamline that process. There's a lot of things that it could make it easier for them to report. And so they're asking for those changes, and we agree with them to help make enforcement happen more. And then a better response time from customer service when contacted by Cascadian Mobility regarding those improperly parked scooters. So, and then around access, we know that the seated scooters are popular with people with mobility issues, and so we're looking to increase the number of total fleet that have seats to somewhere around 25% or 30%. And so that's what we're talking about. That's what we're going to be meeting with Super Pedestrian. We've met, and they know that this is generally what we're asking for. But it also, we're at the point where we're talking to them at the same time we're talking to leadership to determine if this is something that we want to keep moving forward with, and if it's successful enough with these changes that it can continue to be successful. We think that the changes that we've made with the hubs and these changes, we feel like will get to some of the major concerns that we've heard and that we've seen from folks. So that's all I'm going to say, and then gather some.
I'm thinking we could have a couple comments if there are any, and then I think it'd be a good thing to break into small groups and discuss, like, what do you think about this?
Is there
And-
no more?
What's that?
There's no more?
No.
Continue then.
There are more slides, but they were for the next topic.
Yeah, okay, then. That's-
So if there are any comments before we break up into groups, and I'm thinking what we're discussing is if we want to do any kind of endorsement, is our job as advisory to staff. So what might we come up with? Do we have questions? Do we have advice? Do we have an endorsement? You know, kind of like how you see scooters and how they fit in and whether they should continue. Anything that you want to talk about pretty much with scooters. But does anybody have any comments first about the?
And just to, let's stick with ATC members, current ATC members first.
Yeah, you can join in the discussions when we break up into groups, but yeah.
And
Any? Yeah.
Say something. Not a personal user of scooters. I got a $5 promotional credit. Took the one ride that actually $5 didn't cover it, and not for me. But I think seeing those numbers for me, like 200 and whatever thousand miles, right? Like we didn't think about scooters when we made our transportation system plan goals of tripling mode share, but like I'll lump that in because for me, if you're not driving your car by yourself, right, I kind of don't care. Like it's not for me, but clearly 200 and something thousand trips happen, and so it's for somebody. And yeah, the whole parking thing, like ride a scooter around town and see how much you see cars parked inappropriately. It's probably about at the same rate. So I think that's kind of, if we want to talk about parking enforcement, let's talk about parking enforcement, but for everybody. And so that's not for me, but I think we should be supportive because it's clearly moving the needle. Bike mode share is going down. Scooters are filling the gap.
I had 2 questions, no comments yet, but my first question is about the hub. You said they're parked in a hub. Is that a physical structure or like an outline on the?
It's an outline on if you've seen the painted or striped,
Yeah.
those are hubs, and they're digitally marked too. So currently, if we have like the university campus is all hub parking, you can't park outside of a hub without there being a fine. The rest of the city, we're basically sort of transitioning to that system, but it's not currently. We have hubs, but there's not a disincentive in most areas except for
That makes sense. And then my other question was around like the city's share of supporting the cost, or is there any cost that the city has to take on to?
No, currently
scooters here?
the user fees, so the ride fees and the per vehicle fee that we charge super pedestrian is covering staff time and supplies that we need, because we are paying for installing those hubs, and so we're working with Cascading Mobility to put in the bollards and do those, and so currently that's, though as we expand and we need more hubs, it's going to be tight to see if that will be covered. So we're talking to super pedestrian as part of that too. But right now there is no City of Eugene money going to operations.
Okay. Yeah, I get the idea of why you want to have parking in hubs, but you have to kind of be careful because I know I use bike share now and then, and I have to kind of add on 5 minutes onto my trip to be able to get myself to the hub because I'm too cheap to pay the extra buck to park somewhere that's not in a hub. And it'd be more convenient if you didn't have to be in a hub all the time, so adding that 5 minutes on each end is sometimes enough. If I'm late, it's like, oh, screw it, I'll just take my own bike. Well, I was, before, when the city began to sort of look at whether we would have scooters, I was very against them, having seen Portland and the, incredible mess of scooters thrown everywhere in Portland. And I think it's done a really good job here in general. And I've been surprised by how many people I see who I, like on electric bikes, who you would not expect to see riding a bicycle. So I think that's a real positive, that it does expand the range of people who are willing to get out of a car. As I know a lot of those trips would be either walking or perhaps biking, but for the car trips that it replaces, those are nearly all short trips, which are the most polluting trips we have and the most irritating for the city in terms of parking and using our streets. It's helping reduce some of the most annoying trips. So I think that's a good thing. And I live in a neighborhood that has a lot of scooters in it, and they're mostly not very badly parked. Maybe the odd one, but most of them are not. They're on the health strip, or there's only a few, and I agree. Cars badly parked everywhere. So that's my comment. Go scooters.
Let's see, any other comments before, we should have a few minutes, why don't we just.
If I'm allowed to speak.
Yeah, go ahead, Josh is dying to say something.
Yeah, because I love these comments. Parking, scooters are smaller than bikes anyway. People are getting more incentivized to use them as easy as you make it. My comment is I'm shocked that there's like 0 safety metrics or metrics for measuring them. Or actually, my question is, where are the safety metrics?
Well, we've only had 2 reported crashes, and we've had no fatalities or serious injuries reported. So,
And it,
like, if that's the matrix that you're
I mean,
talking
that's
about,
good. Or
then
for how we track that aside from
Yeah.
self-reporting.
just
right?
self-reporting is all we have, right? Like, we've asked hospitals and emergency rooms, doctors for data, and then we can't, you know.
Well, we're
it's
never
all
gonna get
we've
that
heard.
necessarily, but
Well, if you were presenting this to somebody that you're trying to persuade or something, it would be good to add that probably, you know, the safety stuff, because it's impressive. But I thought there'd be a lot more.
'cause I-
Well, yeah, I mean, I think anecdotally, we know that there are crashes,
Yeah.
but they're not like serious enough to
Sure.
report. Like, we hear people say like, oh yeah, I crashed on one of those and like, you know, hurt my hand or.
Yeah, I know.
But
That's why you wouldn't have it from doctors or nurses, but or whatever, but you might, because how does that affect interaction with cars? And I read some newspaper articles about like what happened in other cities where there's
Yeah.
a long time ago, because my dad was like adamantly against it.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm gonna look this up, and they'd found like more than bike accidents. But then they also dug deeper into that, and they found most of those people were intoxicated. But
But that's
just
an issue.
anyway, things to consider.
yeah, no, I think as vehicles, they're, you know, they have a different, you know, the smaller wheels, the technology has changed over time, and that's one of the reasons that I think crashes are down, because they started out as just these, you know, tiny little wheels that were not very safe at all. And I think that the technology of the scooters has changed and improved that some. We start riders out at a slower speed on their very first ride. You know, there's more education that goes in. But, you know, they are less stable. If anyone's ridden one and you want to signal a turn and you take your hand off, like, it's really difficult. You know, you really got to keep both hands on, whereas bikes, you know, it's pretty easy to take your hand off once you become a little bit experienced. So I think, you know, as vehicles, they're not necessarily quite as stable as bikes, but we haven't seen, you know, we just don't have that data. And that's one of the reasons I don't put it in. We don't have much, you know, of the safety data, but because of it self-reporting.
Okay, we have 5 more minutes for this agenda item, so I'm still inclined to get in small groups, and I think I'm changing it unless somebody has a different recommendation, to just say, are you likely to endorse? Do you need more time? Do you have questions? Maybe discuss, those are the 3 things I can think of with your small group of 3 or 4 people. And new people can join in, but just have a few minutes here, but it's just a chance to get. And here we are. May I just have, I don't know how to do this, but can I just have a show of hands if there are people inclined to endorse? Put your hand up if yes, you are inclined. Hands down, raise your hand if you would have to want to discuss it more, have some questions, you don't want to rush it, anybody like that? So people are inclined to endorse, should we do that then?
I would,
What exactly are we endorsing?
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess I'd like to, yeah, just as staff, like, what I would like to maybe just, you know, would ATC like to see the city of Eugene continue with the e-scooter pilot program beyond this 1-year pilot?
That sounds like a good
That's
motion.
easy, yes. That's easy. And
I'll make that motion, Shane.
what I wanted to add before that is, for the pilot program, I really like that you're going back to the e-scooter company and negotiating ways to improve after this pilot. So could we also endorse making sure that that continues, and if you know, making sure that that relationship is working in everyone's favor.
Motion?
Yeah.
And can we see the people on Zoom?
Oh, sorry,
See
yeah,
if they're-
I'll drag them back.
Yeah.
Drag
They're
them back.
waving
that's
their
us.
There you go.
Oh, you've got
Speaking
thumbs
of-
up.
Shane, have you gotten any feedback from the company itself? I mean, how are they feeling? Is it profitable?
Oh,
Do
that
they
is
wanna
something I did
continue?
not share. We are the second most successful market that they have after Seattle.
wow.
Now,
Yeah.
And how do they determine that? Or what makes it safe?
We don't know, I mean, we don't know if it's just if it's just like number of trips. I don't think it's number of trips, I think how much money it's making.
Taking really good
Okay, we
notes.
have a motion.
So I'll amend the motion that we continue, provided that the city continue to work with the provider on changing the parameters to better match the community's desire, however you want to say that.
That we continue the pilot. Is that-
Yeah, continue the pilot in an iterative fashion to address new issues.
That's fancy. Any second? Or just,
I'd second that.
any discussion?
Well, I just kind of wonder if it's not premature, if, you know, the pilot will go on regardless until what, March, and then there's a decision point, so.
No, the decision point is pretty much now, because they have to submit paperwork by the end of January for the
Oh.
license to continue after March 30th.
Oh, okay.
Now is when we're sort of figuring out, do we want to continue? Because if we decide, no, we don't want to continue, we're going to stick with bikes only and not bother with these scooters, now is the time to make that decision so that we don't start doing a lot of work that leads us to March where we're ready to keep going.
Jerry?
I might recommend that I don't know whether it's now or long-term at the next juncture, but there's maybe some accountability put into place for the super scooter or whatever it's called.
Super pedestrian.
Super pedestrian.
Mhm.
Around some of these issues, you know, so like, if we have metrics on parking violations, you know, if we have metrics on, maybe it's a safety metric, you know, and if we can have some level of accountability, right? So that we have a baseline of, okay, in the pilot year, we have this many parking infractions, violations reported, and this many safety issues, then the next year, you know, or through the next juncture contract point, I don't know what that is, that there's a decrease, you know, somehow incentivizing them, because if, you know, their incentive is, I would guess, profit, right? And the city's incentive is clearly, you know, fewer car miles, you know, more, and so I think the city also needs to take into account not just that, but also like the citizens' experience with it, and things like the parking violations and safety hazards, and they really, I mean, they are irritations. They're not. I'm with Andrew and Julie on this for sure, in the feelings that it's, when you look at 260,000 miles, my irritation is, you know, whatever, I can live with that, right? But at the same time, it's not just me, and I think there are, you know, if I'm a citizen who uses a wheelchair daily and has to, you know, deal with that's a lot different, their irritation level is probably gonna be a lot higher, right? So,
Things should get better.
Yeah.
right,
And
that's
so
the point,
is this the
Yeah.
point to put this in, or is there?
Well,
any
I think
point?
that, I don't know if that necessarily has to be in your motion, but I think it's a good point to call out, and that it's certainly something that we're putting in, and we're actually talking about those benchmarks, and not have it be something where it's like, okay, if you don't do this, then you can't get a license next year, but that it's actually fines, and that we're actually utilizing our fine structure that is in our administrative order, but it's a little convoluted, and just being more clear with super pedestrian, like if we aren't meeting certain, you know, if we're not getting certain things, it's not that we're gonna be pulling the license, it's that we're gonna fine you until, you know, and until that it's, you know, until that changes.
So again, I don't want to rush this, but do we want to go ahead and try to pass the motion? See how it goes? Do we know what it is? Do we have something?
Jerry second.
Okay. Any more discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion? Let's see how we do over there.
Thumbs up. Okay, Andrew, Misty?
And
Yep.
anybody opposed? All right, so that motion passes.
So Shane, is that vote all you need, or do we need to?
That's all I need.
Submit
What I'll do is
something in
I can write that
writing.
up a little bit
Okay.
more and send it to you all and just say, this is what I heard, for this motion, and I can go back and listen to the recording, and capture it all, in a little more fine detail, and then I'll send it out to you all, make sure that's what you heard.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so the next order on the agenda is to elect co-chairs for next term, this next year. So that's open to any current members. Well, I guess it's open to everyone, but it's probably best to have a current member. So we'll start with nominations, I think. Sue, is there anything else besides just nominating and voting? Or Shane? as far as-
No, with the bylaws here,
Okay.
yeah, there's not, the election is annual, at the last regular meeting held during the calendar year, here we are. Nominations will be taken from the floor, and election shall be held at the last meeting during the year as provided above.
Okay, yes. So we're taking nominations for co-chairs. I think we've got a couple people who sort of volunteered, but there might be other people who people want to nominate or want to nominate themselves.
Because Sue's stepping down as co-chair.
I'm stepping down.
Oh, Mary's stepping down.
Yes, I nominate Sue to continue. Anybody want to second that one?
I'll second it.
Thank you.
And then,
And I would nominate Lucy, unless she's changed her mind, she's indicated she's willing to take it on, so.
I'll accept the nomination.
do we have a second for Lucy?
Second that.
Okay. Are there other nominations or self-nominations? We don't want to discourage people. We have a runoff, it'd be really exciting.
Cage match.
Yeah. Okay, well, we have two co-chairs nominated, so let's go ahead and I think we can make them in a package, if that's okay with everyone. So all those in favor of Lucy and Sue, being our co-chairs next year? And anybody opposed? Yeah, how are we doing on Zoom? Are we?
Yep.
Okay, okay,
Okay.
yay, congratulations and thank you. Lucy and
Thanks,
Sue.
Lucy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And
Okay, and now we have and there's where's the code for the bathroom? I think it's right up there. And there's a post-it.
Yeah, and that little post-it there.
And for new members, the bathroom's just over to the left out there.
Yeah. So those online can maybe see it as well, but. Yeah, so unfortunately, I don't know a lot about the response. Reed sent this and I didn't have a chance to check in with him afterwards about it, because Sue had a question. And I think Sue's question was about, this mentions pedestrian access routes, T-cars, but it doesn't say anything about bikeways. And the question was, does this apply to bikeways? But yes, it does. I do know that much, that this is about any diversion of for detours, and that would apply to bikeways, pedestrian ways.
So when I read the response, I spent a little bit of time with it, but I think we'll need more time to digest it for individual members and new members. And we'll probably need to discuss it then in, have kind of a completion on it in January. But Reed starts out by acknowledging that they want to follow federal guidelines and have best practice for accessibility. And then they have his reasons for why it's not that way, as far as like messy permitting and different entities involved, and some different standards for different kinds of contractors. Like tree trimmers don't have to have detours, but other people do have to, and so it's just not consistent. And then he then says some plans that the city has in place, mostly a local traffic control guide, and with priority given to the most vulnerable users when they're considering detours. And so anyway, I think we just need a little bit more time with this. The thing that I didn't see anything about any response to was we were saying, what about fines or disincentives? And I don't think that got addressed in this response. So maybe if we have some time for a few questions, maybe for Reed or any kind of discussion like that, yeah.
Well, Mary, the other thing that I didn't see in there was, which is the thing that I love most of all, besides the fines, is the number of the contractor, so that you can call him up when you're on your phone in an irritated way and leave him a message. Then that there's nothing like irritating them to get some result, because it takes up their time. And so I want the name of But, I want a number for us to be able to call, and not a city number, I want the company's number.
Yeah, and it
Because
seems
there's
like a
nothing
low-
like
it seems like
consumer.
low-hanging fruit.
It's low-hanging
Yeah.
fruit, doesn't cost the city anything, it's like, it's just a number. And then, then we can, when we see the lack of detour, or where the bike path drops into a chasm without any detour, we can call up and say, hey, I'm an old person and you just about killed me, and next time I'm suing you,
So it sounds like we have
That's
some
common.
ideas for responses. I see Andrea's hand up. Hi, Andrea.
Hello. I just want to say that what I did really.
Wait, hold on. I think it's the first time we've heard from anyone, and I
There you
Can you hear me?
don't have audio.
Wasn't it happened last time too?
Did this happen last time?
It might have.
It just made a noise.
Can you try again, Andrea? Just a quick test?
Can you hear me?
No.
Is the owl toggled under the audio, under the mute? There's that
Oh,
little
thank
arrow?
you, yep. Could be it. Maybe they're just hearing my,
My mute is off for sure.
oh, there you go, speaker. Let's try that.
Hello?
There you go.
Okay, good. So what I do really appreciate is part C. I really appreciate the amount of focus on education and also the inspections, like doing that initially, because I feel like, trying to enforce things and find them, I think a lot, it's just a lot for the city to try to deal with, but I think trying to find ways to be proactive about proper education and, and doing something initially before they close the access route, I think is great. I think that's a really good, positive thing. So I thought there were a lot of really good things in the letter, and I appreciated Reed's thoughtfulness a lot.
Thank you, Andrea. Yeah, Sue.
I was just curious, when these plans are submitted to the city for review, who is reviewing? Is it, and I guess I'll preface that, one thing I was kind of surprised to hear, that I know the city used to hire a traffic engineer, that was their role, and now I gather the traffic engineer is whoever the engineer for the project is. There isn't a single traffic engineer, is that true?
No, there's always been program like project managers and then a city traffic engineer who signs off on a TPAR. So
Who is the traffic engineer?
So Chris Henry is the traffic engineer, and he signs off on the TPARs. He can, I believe there's I believe that there's another person on his staff that can sign those, but I'm not 100% sure. But it goes through it depends on where the permit is pulled, but it's comes through permitting, not through, it's definitely not in transportation planning. But we do review some TPARs, but not all TPARs. We don't review TPARs, the temporary pedestrian access route, so they're submitted for utility projects, or if it's a stormwater project. But if it's a transportation related project, then we're going to review those because they're transportation related. Yeah, and I think Reed can come and talk about this in a little bit more detail. I think it's good to get that feedback. I think hearing about wanting to hear about fines, because I think and then the phone number piece, I think is a great one to add onto there. I know there's a develop an electronic complaint form, but I really like the idea of the phone piece. Yeah, because
in the moment, when you're really
Well,
irritated.
directly to the contractor,
Right.
not just to.
And then.
Yeah, I don't want to make the city have to do any work, I want to make the contractor uncomfortable.
I do think that having an electronic complaint form, or maybe like you could just put it in the iBike Eugene app, like parking in the bike lane. Like, I'm one of those people, I actually do stop what I'm doing and I'll sit behind a car and it takes a couple minutes and it's kind of annoying. But like, after Rob Interfeld told me that actually part of protecting certain bike lanes, they need data to show that people are parking in the bike lanes all the time. And I never used to report it because, right, who looks at that? Is this really going to do anything? And if there's are a bunch of people submitting pictures of really bad detours all the time, right? Like the city could theoretically look at which contractors have better compliance, right? Like if you don't have that data, it's really hard. It's really easy for us to sit around and say like, I see this all the time, but it's really hard for the city to do anything about that because it's all anecdotal. And so if there was a way to capture it like the parking and bike lanes where I sit there and it takes a minute, but I take a picture and mark where it was, now you know, and no one can dispute that because there's a car parked in the bike lane, right? And so if you had that with detours, you could see evidence of kind of what, you know, is it just us? I don't think so, but now we have the data.
That's actually a really interesting point because we're revamping iBike Huge.
Please do.
We are revamping it, but also to make it more broad. And one of the other reasons we're doing it is because of scooters, because we want a system that people can report scooters without having to have the scooter app, which is currently the way you do it, or call customer service. We want to have a direct way, and so we're going to integrate that. But currently, the way iBike Huge is set up, it only is set up to report to our maintenance management system, or MMS. And so when things like improper parking, that goes right to parking. When something else leaves in the bike lane, that goes to the maintenance team, right? They automatically go someplace, and we don't have a system for going outside of.
Yeah, but I think my point is like I don't expect the parking people to actually get there and do something, especially they don't work all hours, so I don't expect that. But I think the value is not necessarily in fixing a single problem, but it's helping to fix a systemic problem.
It gives us the data.
So as far as next steps on this, it sounds like we need to, do you think Reed might come and talk with us about it, or what do you think? Anybody have an idea about where we want to take this? We've got some feedback now for Reed. Do we want to spend time on it in January?
I would think on subcommittees, we want to look at it in more detail, actually.
That's a good idea. So it could go to a subcommittee. Anybody else? Let's do that. Let's have one of the subcommittees take a look at it, but you've got some notes now for Reed, and I guess we'll just wait in terms of any kind of request we have. Yeah.
And your chairs can.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. The next thing will be Keith. So new members, we have Keith is from the Springfield PAC, and he's the liaison and comes here, and then Andrea on our ATC goes to Springfield, so we have that connection with them. And Andrea, this is her last year, so we'll be looking for somebody else to take that on. So that might be something that one of the new members wants to consider as well. But Keith, let's hear from Springfield.
Well, I don't have a lot. We in Springfield, basically every year the committee is tasked at the beginning of the year to come up with a work plan. Set some goals and things that we want to get done during the year, and then at the end of the year, December, we write a report up, and then that's submitted to the city council. Actually, the work plan is submitted at the beginning of the year, so that's kind of where we're at. We're in the wrap-up stage for this year, kind of looking back at what we've been able to get done, what we haven't been able to get done, and some of the highlights, we do a lot of what we call walk audits with the committee, which are really, I think, instructive. We'll pick a certain part of the city where there may be some issues with the pedestrian or bicycle infrastructure, and write up a pretty thorough report that's submitted to the city staff and also eventually to the council. And actually, those things have resulted in some good corrections, things like crosswalk changes, signage changes, highlights things that needs to be looked at, and we'll be continuing to do those. That's a major thing. One thing that was sort of interesting this year, we have this year I mentioned it, I think earlier in the meeting, we've consolidated all of our bicycle and pedestrian online stuff into one site because it was spread out before. But part of that is we have a pretty actually good reporting tool for that people can use if they see a issue with a sidewalk or whatever. They can actually get on and report that. but it's not being, we're now finally getting data to see how it's being used. It's not being used very well, which tells me that we're not doing a good enough job of, getting that out there. I think that's going to be, like next year, one of the things will be an emphasis, how do we make this, these tools not only more accessible, but just make people realize that they're there to be used. And that's I think that's education, it's a really, really huge challenge. It's not that I think that people don't want to use them, I just don't think a lot of times even there. So those are the kind of things we'll be working on next year. We've got we only have 9 members on our committee, and we've got a huge turnover this year. We have 5 new members. So I don't know that I'll be continuing this, as I've really enjoyed meeting you guys and being part of this committee here. So there might be somebody new, maybe not, I don't know. We'll see after the beginning of the year. But anyway, just on a personal note, thanks for welcoming me in, and enjoyed working with you guys, and hopefully I think it's an important thing for all of us, different partners in the community here to be able to work together. So it's a good thing. So thanks.
We really appreciate you being part of
Thank you.
it. Thank you.
With that, happy holidays.
Okay.
Can I ask you a specific question? Because I know a lot of people over time have asked about the D Street connection.
Oh, the D Street?
And
Yeah.
where does that stand?
Well, actually, there was supposed to have been this summer, there were supposed to have been some traffic calming and some different in the connection there. And I haven't actually seen the design of it, but there's supposed to be some changes there. They got kicked down the road because they're next summer they're going to be completely redoing Mill Street, which is the first street there, which is in terrible condition. But there's going to be a lot of improvements put in there in terms of bicycle access and the bike lane there. So I think that, and also we had some discussions also about. I think there's going to be some improvements. We're talking about trying to do something on Pioneer Parkway as well, because that's another major issue in terms of this crossing. So I'm told that's, I know that Mill Street's on for next year, and I think that what they decided to do is wrap all of that into one project because of where West Street comes up to this all right there. So that's always going to be, it's not a perfect solution. Unfortunately, I don't think there's the perfect solution isn't going to probably happen, which would be dedicated by Williams because of the parking issue, and there's a big issue with that. So, so just kind of where we are. So we try to move it along, incrementally the best we can, and pushing for improvements.
Great, thank you, Keith.
Yep.
And then, let's see, Andrea, do you have anything quickly to add to that as our BPAC liaison?
Well, there were also a little bit of updates on Main Street and also on, and also about possible bike share possibilities, which I thought was kind of exciting.
Yeah.
But they're in the works. All that is in the works. But I really appreciate the fact that that BPAC does these walk audits. I think it's really insightful to hear their findings, and I think it would be really useful to maybe do some more, as ATC goes forward, because I think it's very helpful.
Well, it's really nice to hear that change actually occurs from it, because sometimes I think walk audits aren't, they don't really do anything. So
yeah, no, I think they're really useful. And it's good to have, and the way that we do it, we usually have one city councilor that goes with us, and then we have city staff. So it's that are on that walk audit too. So it's really. It's not only is it it's good just in terms of kind of some bonding going on there. We're finding a team, and Springfield's much smaller, so it's not like we've got it's good and it's bad, because we don't have the resources a lot like a bigger city has, but we also have access to the folks that are actually getting stuff done. So
it sounds like you have a culture of walk audits equals something might happen, and I don't think we have that here. Maybe we haven't developed it, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I would, I'd recommend that that process. Maybe that might, that find a way to try that in one area to see what happens.
Okay. Thank you. All right, now we have comments from departing members. We like to hear from them and just see what sort of wisdom they have, what advice, whatever they want to say about their time on ATC, and anything that they want to like challenge us with, or whatever might come out of their mouths. And it's like 2 or 3 minutes, and you do not have to say much if you don't want, or you can go, really give it to us. We have 3 people at the table, I think Julie and Michelle and Andrew, who are leaving. And then we have Andrea and Clarissa, who are leaving. So we have 5 people, is that correct? Yeah. Yeah, it's really sad they're going. It's really hard when people leave. And it's really exciting when people come, but it's really hard when people leave. Who wants to take off?
I can do it.
Michelle.
I'll probably be short and sweet. Well, I just want to say, like, when I originally was looking into doing this, I was anticipating having a lot more energy to contribute, and it didn't really turn out that way. So I've kind of I feel bad about not being able to, participate as much as I want, but I've taken it as a learning opportunity, and I've never been involved in a group like this, so it's really good for me to see how it works and to be inspired by people that use their valuable time to help better the community, and I will look for more ways to do that. But thank you guys.
Michelle, you're super steady and always here,
Thank you.
and I really have enjoyed working with you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll just take this opportunity as people say something, encourage them to say something.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Somebody else want to volunteer? Or else we'll just.
I can go. Is that okay? I did write down a couple thoughts because it's been 4 years. It's really hard to believe, but yeah, it went by very quickly, actually. So I want to say it was a really incredible learning experience that opened my eyes to how we interact with the infrastructure around us and with each other as well. Because I think, learning how to work together in a city is a difficult thing, and, with traffic. And I learned a lot about how city government works, the complexity of it, how really smart and thoughtful our staff is, and all the balancing of the interests of different parties, and there are a lot of them. So I think that was amazing to see how how long it took to get things done sometimes, but how, how thoughtful and how difficult it was to get things done as well. I think because of the pandemic, I think maybe Julie and I and others at that time felt like it was kind of a slow start. It was really difficult to get to know one another. I think it's a big advantage you guys have coming on right now that you're going to be all sitting in the same room together and being able to read each other better than being on Zoom, which is always quite difficult. And the other things that were really hard were the acronyms, the number of acronyms, trying to remember those, the very large documents that you sometimes had to sift through. And as Heath was saying, I found when we did a couple of the street audits that we did, I found that those were really helpful. And I felt like kind of being boots on the ground was a really good thing for me to understand how there were so many different touch points in a cityscape. So, and then lastly, I just want to say, I was so happy to meet so many new people, and I know that these friendships will go on. I was just so happy to meet so many of you. So, well, all of you, but I know some we'll keep talking and thinking about things together. So,
thank you, Andrea.
Stay in touch.
Clarissa, do you want to go?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I guess like Andrew was saying, this has been such a fantastic learning opportunity, and being able to dive in to kind of how government works in this way and operate. It's been really, really fantastic and cool. And I also so appreciate everyone who's shown up and keeps coming and talking about hey, this is an issue. I think we need to be able to fix this. And sometimes it can be hard when it's we're not getting stuff done as fast as I'd want to as my 22-year-old self. I'm let's get it done now. But the dedication that people keep coming back to and the passion that they keep bringing is really fantastic. And I think I really have enjoyed the letters that people have been writing and kind of creating a body of work of, hey, like, this is the ATC, this is what our stances are for now and into the future. And I've appreciated the responses we've got from those. Though I do recognize that that takes more work. And I think Sue has been spearheading a lot of that. And I commend her for sitting down and writing those and really making sure that they get really good. Oh, and Mary as well. Absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was doing twinkle fingers, not like Mimi.
Oh, twinkle fingers. Yeah. I thought those were fantastic. I really appreciated my time on the committee and everyone who helped me to kind of get the ropes and see how it's going. And I'm super excited for the newcomers and hopefully keep seeing you all around while I'm biking around Eugene. I definitely run into some of you. So hopefully I'll keep doing that.
Yay. And Clarissa went to the Netherlands on the trip, so she brought a lot of that passion back with her and the knowledge, yeah. And she did a presentation for us one time about what she learned. And Andrea does traveling, and she always brings back good ideas from her travels. Like, this is really cool what they do over here. Yeah. Okay. Andrea, you want to go?
Sure. Yeah, I think this committee is really cool. Clarissa said sometimes it feels like we're not getting a lot done, but as someone who works in a different local government agency, that's how it feels for staff too. And so I would just encourage new members to, I think one of the most powerful things about this committee is just like being able to suggest things to staff, right? Like there, I don't know, what, 7 people or something like that. Like there are a few people, we are out in the community a lot more, right? And so they're not, even though I know staff all bike all the time and walk all the time, take the bus, right? Like this is a great way to get more feedback in. So we're seeing all of the temporary detours that aren't working well, right? Like I've heard a lot of great ideas at this table for how things can improve. There were a lot of discussions when 13th rolled out around the signals, and the city was able to respond to that. We've talked about the signals on high and how those might function somewhat differently. And so I think this is, sometimes it doesn't feel like we're getting a lot done, but if you can just bring ideas, like you said, bringing ideas from other places and making suggestions about how we can apply that here, I think it actually is really powerful. And thinking about that too is like being able to amplify your effect. So if you're involved in your neighborhood organization, right, like you're gonna learn a lot of things while you're on this committee. And a lot of people in your neighborhood probably don't understand why something is happening a certain way, right? And so you can be a conduit back for information out the other way as well. Is it always effective? No, some people still hate bikes. They hate being inconvenienced by people crossing the street. But a lot of people, I think, can learn from you. If you're involved in other things, make sure to be sharing information back out the other way. It's not a one-way street. It should be a two-way street.
You want to tell everybody where you're moving?
Sure. So I'm leaving the committee because I'm actually moving to Victoria, British Columbia.
Oh, cool.
So if you want to come check out their bike facilities, give me a ring, and we can. I have to figure them out first.
As a tourist, I was just on them. They actually have some pretty good.
They have some really
infrastructure
awesome
right downtown. Yeah.
I'm very excited for Andrew, but I'm very sad too because he's been a great partner at LTD, and it's going to be hard to replace him. I will say that these some of these are framed and some are not, and the ones that are not, it doesn't mean anything. It just means that those people responded and said, no, don't bother with the frame. And so, thanks, Andrew.
So, will you be working with a transit agency up there?
I'm going to be working for a consulting firm. So I'll end up working with a lot of transit agencies. I'm going to work on some other transport. So I get to work on active transportation too a little bit, which isn't, I don't really get to do that a lot at work. I work with the city, but LTD doesn't build bike infrastructure. And maybe some other stuff, right, like parking policy, curb stuff. I'll get to do kind of anything I can get someone to pay me for. So, but I'll still be working on active transit. I'm not going to go highways or something.
You're not gonna go rogue.
No.
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah. Julie?
Well, yeah, 4 years, it's gone by really, really quickly. like Andrea, I was very intimidated by the number of acronyms when and so it has been a real learning curve. I think I've become a better bike rider for understanding how the system really works. And, I never knew what those things, sharrows were in the middle of the road. Unless you look it up, it's like, there's painting on the road with a bicycle sort of on it and some arrows. So it's helped me be a more confident bike rider and encourage my friends. I want to give a real shout out to the staff because they have been so incredibly responsive to endless questions and requests for more information. Shane particularly, I've often asked for lots of information, and I really appreciate the responsiveness. Staff has been really, has really worked hard. I'm a very impatient person, and I don't have a lot of tolerance for how long things take. So it has been definitely challenging for me to see the sort of convoluted nature of government and planning and transportation, and just the number of what appear to be, very stupid rules for very practical, simple things that could be different. Why can't we just put up concrete barricades in the road and just make a bike path? And so some cars hit it back. So that has been definitely challenging for me. I think my big takeaway from this is how very badly we need to have an activist voice in the community to speak to our community leaders, not necessarily staff, but to our city council, to the mayor, to our county commissioners about the value of active transportation and how we really are considered second-class citizens. There's just a culture that is built around cars, and I think people are very surprised when they learn that a third of our city, about a third of our land mass is taken up by the storage of cars and an infrastructure for streets, and that's far more than actually there's more parking lots than there are space for housing. So when you say those things to our city government, it slowly helps to drip create a change around a very cost-centric culture. And I drive a car and I like driving, and I also use a bike and walk. So there's that piece of it, that activism. And I just try to keep in mind that, when I was a young girl, which was now a very long time ago, since I'm probably the oldest person on the committee, girls weren't allowed to play full court sports because we would clearly keel over and die. And so I do see that change is possible, but it just takes a lot of time and a lot of speaking up. So what I would encourage the new members and outgoing members to speak up to the city leaders and let them know that active transportation really is a thing, even for old ladies. Thanks.
Anybody have anything else to say about our departing members, or?
I'd just say thank you all. We're losing a lot of passion and a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge. It's you newbies have your work cut out for you to fill their shoes. But thank you for your involvement, and keep in touch.
Yeah.
We'll still be here.
I like what Julie said, is now you can go out and raise a ruckus, as an advocate, and it's great.
And I just wanted to say too, thanks to Sue and Mary for leading us so well. It's been really a pleasure to have you guys guiding the committee.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mary, you're stepping down as co-chair, but are you still going to be on the committee?
Yeah, I've got another year. Sue and I both have another year, so. Okay, then we have time for subcommittee meetings. How are we doing on time? Yeah, we just thought that we would have a time for people to get together in their subcommittee, since we didn't have a super full agenda, and it's hard to get people together. So we thought that we would have subcommittee meetings, and new members, you may join whichever. Right now, we currently have 2 subcommittees.
Well, actually, I'm the only one of the infrastructure subcommittee who's here, so that's gonna be a.
Oh, a meeting of one.
Yes. You can meet with yourself, yeah.
So maybe we'll just do like, 10 minutes or something. But you can meet with some new members who might be interested in infrastructure. And then, and I think that.
Or figure out what the second subcommittee should be, because I'm not sure if the problem with the subcommittee has been just the schedules of the people, or if the subject is just not that engaging, so I'm not quite sure what the.
And Sue's been on both subcommittees.
And what's the other subcommittee?
Sidewalks. Yeah.
Sidewalks aren't infrastructure.
They are.
Well, it was
They
just.
need their own.
They need their
It's
own.
yeah, we were
It's a
really
big
working on
problem.
sidewalks, so.
I mean, it's true.
Yeah, and then Sue, I don't know if whoever meets with you might want to also consider taking on the detours.
Yeah, I mean, that might.
Looking at that in more in depth.
That would be kind of logical.
Yeah, so I guess what we're thinking about is just meet in your group and just think about next steps, and also the question is, will your subcommittee continue in the new year? And there might be whole other ideas for subcommittees for new members too, but if there's work still to be done, you can talk about that and whether you sort of recommend that you continue on and what that work might consist of. So it's just sort of next steps, I think. And then let's just take about 10 minutes, and then we'll maybe only 7 minutes. Just to do.
How does Willow do, noticed that the meeting isn't set up for breakout rooms.
Right.
And so how does Willow generally do, I don't know how often you break?
It depends on the topic. Sometimes they can be a breakout room of just whoever's online, but that doesn't really work for this particular topic.
Yeah.
I don't think. So.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know, you guys, we'll get a cup of coffee or something.
So let's just do it kind of quick. I don't know how well this is going to work anyway. This is the first time we've ever had subcommittee meetings, but put your heads together. If you want to do sidewalks, we're over here. How about? And if you want to do
Infrastructure over there.
infrastructure and detours is over there.
All right.
Okay.
Hello, online folks, we're back in subcommittee.
Do you guys want to say something about what you talked about or next steps for you?
No, we talked mostly about Grant Street, which is proposed as a neighborhood greenway, and how it needs more than just.
A lot of us are new, so we got an engaged conversation about things that had.
But yeah, it's like, I mean, it's great, because we've got one fellow who lives very close, or uses Grant Street all the time, so has a lot of personal experience with it, and,
Okay, and the sidewalk committee, we're gonna need some more members on ours because most of our people are off the committee now. It's just Jerry and me.
So will that be on the agenda for the next meeting, probably, is
Yeah.
subcommittees to?
well,
choose
we have a
subcommittees, or-
retreat coming.
Our
Oh,
agenda's
maybe
already
it's the
established for
February meeting
January,
too,
it
yeah.
might be subcommittees is on it,
Okay.
or Lucy and Sue.
Yeah, well, yeah, I would think the retreat might be a time to figure out what we want to do with subcommittees.
And if new members have other ideas too.
Yeah, we could maybe poll for ideas in January. Well, I think we already set the agenda for January, didn't we?
It might include subcommittees that are overwhelmed. Okay, then let's go on to project updates and information share. The sidewalk subcommittee, we've mostly just said we want to keep going. We've got some kind of pathways. And then on the side, some people want to do individual activism that's outside of the ETC. And then there's, some things we have going within the ETC as well. So I think we've got a lot going on. It's going pretty well. Okay, so project updates, information share.
I am really bummed because I had forgot the new movers packet was on here, and I did not grab my new movers packet. Because I was gonna bring 2 in to share with you.
Wow.
We have them back from, from being designed. For those who don't know, New Movers is a program where we are doing a targeted marketing campaign to people who've just moved to Eugene, to welcome them to Eugene and tell them about all the great ways to explore Eugene by walking, biking, and taking the bus. And so we are mailing out packets to everyone who moves to Eugene that has put in an address change from more than 15 miles outside of Eugene. So if they put an address change and it's they moved in for more than 15 miles, they will receive a packet from us. Within that packet, they get a welcome letter from the mayor with a land acknowledgement on it. They get a couple free stickers, the bike map, a parks map, and a pack of Explorer cards that are 10 different little explorations of Eugene. And on the back, it says what mode it's focused on: walking, biking, transit, mix. And then there's an order form to get more information about each mode. And so they can order up to 2 packets, and with each of those packets, we will deliver them by bike, and it includes some freebies. So they can order, the bike packet, and they get a guidebook on biking in Eugene with some really detailed information, or on walking in Eugene with some really detailed information. There's a family adventure packet and a transit packet, a bus and train packet, and a shared mobility. So bike share, the free membership per month, and e-scooters for some free trips. So they can order those, and then we will have Peddlers Express deliver them to their house. They're really beautiful looking. We had Bell and Funk do the design of the packets with input, from us. We got a lot of information to them. And so next month I will make sure to bring some and show them to you. They're really beautiful, and I'm really excited about them. Jeanette is leading that project, and she just finished addressing today our first 250, and they're going out in the new year. We're going to wait till the new year, but because we're moving, and that's my other announcement, is that for those who don't know, we're moving from 99 East Broadway to 850 8th Avenue, and so it's the old Sykes or Symantec building, kitty corner, sort of across the street from World Pies, that parking lot there. There's a building there that we're moving into, and the 3rd and 4th floor of Public Works Engineering is moving down to 1 floor, and I'm really excited about that move. We are looking at the potential of having ATC meetings there. That would be not until March if we did that, but we'll see how that goes.
Where are you moving, Shane?
What's that?
Why are you moving?
Oh, we're moving because our lease was ending at the Wells Fargo building, and they're not a great landlord. And then once they moved out, they were even less responsive. And
Because they opened a bank in the building.
they don't really care.
That's
So
what
they're
happens
selling
when you
that
have a new
building, and
you
it
sell
just
it.
had a lot more issues of like leaking the AC, or just like the climate control in general. So it's just not a good building for us, and to bring us all together on 1 floor. So this consolidation, and a little less expensive, I think, than where we're going.
That sounds exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, we've, in the past, at times, we've talked about like a bike ambassador program, and it's like, it'd be great if you do get requests from some of these new people moving in about if they'd like somebody to help them learn to ride a bike around Eugene or something. I'd love to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. We were just talking about bike ambassadors again yesterday in the office, so still on our radar.
How are those move packages paid for?
That is funding from ODOT. It's part of our transportation grant that we wrote. And then just, if I have time for just one final thing to share, I just wanted to note that we're going to be holding this really cool class called One Pass class. If anyone knows what the One Pass is, we're for teens, and I'm just really excited about it because we're going to be holding 2 different camps, or 2 different classes in 5 different locations in June. So I'll come back and share more about that. But it's one of the projects that I've been working on, and just found out today that we've got all the sites located, and I've been doing a lot of work with getting LCIs and league cycling instructors and sort of building our education programming up to go beyond what we do in schools. And this is sort of a step into that, and working with Lama Lane and YMCA and our rec facilities to put on this really cool class to encourage childhood independence and getting kids out biking and taking the bus. So it's a class on how to be independent as a kid using your one pass and going out in the community. So
That's great.
that's really exciting.
How old?
We're targeting like 12 to 14 is like the target audience, but I think we're taking 11 to 16.
That's a 2-year-old.
Do you have materials I can share with students?
Not yet. We're working on it.
I didn't really know what the one pass thing was, but I know the parents that I ran it were really excited about it.
One-pass
It's
is
like,
very
oh,
cool.
man.
Okay, we've already done BPAC share outs and subcommittee reports. Do you want to say anything else about February retreat? You touched on that too.
No, just that we supposedly have some people helping to plan what we're gonna do. That's what,
Do we need more people? I forget.
probably.
Who's helping?
You and Charlotte and me, I think.
Okay, if anybody wants to help plan
So,
the
yeah.
February retreat, we need people.
I think the idea is just to do it at the time of our normal February meeting, but maybe starting an hour early or something, and just try to do some, getting our head together about what we're gonna do during the coming year, so.
Okay, I think anybody else have something that they want to share out?
Just ever so briefly, Amtrak has changed their schedule.
Yeah, you don't have to get up at 5:30.
So the early train is at 7:45, which is a much more civilized hour. The price is really, really good.
Unless you want to get to Seattle by noon.
No, you can't do that.
You could when it was at 5:30.
You could, 5:30, yeah.
Can't look like that bus.
That's a big, and the price
So
is
the
really good.
5:30 is now the 7:30?
45.
7:45.
Yeah. 7:45, yeah. It used to be like
Okay, well,
5:20.
new members, we'll see you next time, and you'll get to vote and everything on all the big things.
Yeah.
And old
And we'll even
members,
give you a
we'll
name
see you
tag.
around.
I've gone through for nothing before.
Larissa, are you staying in town, or where are you going?
So I'm graduating either after winter term or spring term, and my lease is up in August, and then
Oh, wow. Wow, you're gonna fly the coop, that's cool.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you so much.